Hello YouTube, back with the next BattleBots review, and today we're reviewing Episode 5 of Season 1.0. Not the greatest episode in the world. I mean, mostly, maybe you could argue it's either better or worse than the battle with Overkill and Frenzy in Episode 1. Because it features two robots that, at least it looked better than it actually ended up turning out to be, because it was Dual versus Slam, Stephen Lowell's attack machine. Slam is an acronym, in case you didn't know. I mean, it looks like a promising start. I mean, they get some hits in, but not long after that, Slam has basically no mobility, and Dual is running into walls. It basically ended up being rather dull. I don't remember if it went the full distance, but whether it did or didn't meant it was a pretty dull and lackluster fight. Kind of unfortunate that Slam, which I think had a gas-powered engine to power its weapon, he just died on the arena floor, and Dual had basically, I think, remote control issues because he was driving into every wall, going back and forth. He was not really doing anything offensive at all. He managed to win, but kind of not the right way. You want to have a dominant performance. You want to put on a good show. Neither one of these guys really put on a good show at all. I mean, it gets a little bit better with Biohazard versus Mjolnir, but it was rather one-sided. I mean, as you'd expect. Mjolnir is a high ground clearance and a thwack bot. I guess arguably Biohazard is the type of bot that Mjolnir would want to take on, but not when they have when you can't get underneath them at all. And Biohazard is very quick and agile and kind of controls the fight, and eventually getting it to the point where Mjolnir has basically no mobility left. He's got one of the tires were coming off, and was taking damage from the kill size, and I think towards the end of the fight, it ends up practically propped up against the spike strip. Really wasn't that great either, but I think it's arguably at least an improvement over the previous fight. I don't know. I think when you get down to it, I think perhaps the editors didn't have a whole lot to work with. I mean, the fights were probably just going to be dull from the get-go. Kind of see how they go, see how people react to them. One never knows how they'll actually go out here. And the commentary might help a little bit, although I don't think even John Stasberg and Bill Dwyer had a whole lot to say on these fights either. I mean, they maybe had a little bit more to say with Biohazard versus Mjolnir for obvious reasons, because there's more to talk about during the fight. But the Lightweight Rumble, at least, I think proved to be at least a little bit better still. Maybe not by much. I mean, it was mostly because of Backlash, just tearing things up. But it got to Thorn, he got to Shrike, but I guess that wasn't good enough for the commentators to pick up on, because it was ripped, I think, one of Shrike's wheels off, or some of the frame, but it wasn't the most exciting. I think Backlash was mostly doing the damage. I mean, it went to No Tolerance, which was a wheeled bot in this competition. I mean, and this is the only Rumble Backlash I think would take part in, at least until later seasons, because it drops out in season 2, and that fight and that Rumble never makes it to, actually that is never relayed back to the commentators. Have no idea where Backlash is in that Rumble. I didn't either, but then you get the raw footage of the Rumble, you can see it got taken out of the Rumble, and I'll get more into that when we get to that. But yeah, I guess it really wasn't that great. I mean, not that great of an episode. I guess it was better than where it had been, where it started off, but probably not by a whole lot. I think arguably some of the episodes from the previous weeks were a little bit better. And this, you could argue even Mauler versus Nightmare was better. Mauler versus Nightmare may have ended up being more, a more extreme version of what you'd expect with Dual and Slam. I mean, it was a fight that I think everyone anticipated was going to be awesome. There was probably a lot of parts flying off, but it was over really quickly. Mostly because Jim Smitowski's kind of poor driving. Drove the wheel into the spinning chisels of Mauler and had it ripped right off. And that was it. Really couldn't do anything after that. So unfortunately, not that great of an episode, and you don't expect a lot of these, considering that we were mostly through the season already. Actually, I think we're about halfway through now, because seasons 1 and 2 were very long. And then they get a little shorter because of the lack of the Rumbles. And they start editing out. They have a lot more fights to choose from, so they can air a whole bunch. And they end up airing a whole bunch that were proving to be much, much better. Even Season 2 is a big improvement. Of course, I'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, that's my review on BattleBots Season 1.0, Episode 5. Thanks for watching.